Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City, the Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Renee Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
Hi.
Hey. Hey, hey, hey.
Hi, hi, hi. What's up? What's cooking?
Not much.
What's up?
What's up? Nobody gets that anymore. It's like
Our audience
like
gets it.
that's like from 20 years ago. The wasabi. What's up?
I couldn't even drink alcohol when that first came out.
That was 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
There are kids who were in college who don't understand that now.
Well, get on it. Google Budweiser.
Is it Budweiser? No, it was wasabi, right? Was it Budweiser commercial?
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And the frogs, the Budweiser frogs. Bud.
Oh, right. But no, the wasabi, like wasabi, like that.
That's not wasabi.
What's that? We're in a Japanese restaurant and there's like wasabi. Like,
No, they're saying what's up.
Right. But they're making a joke with wasabi.
Maybe, but it was for alcohol.
Right, it's for alcohol.
Yeah.
That's right.
There was a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. I only saw the one with the wasabi.
Yeah.
That was the only one I saw.
Racist. I don't know. Miles, cut that out. He's not even here anymore.
All right. Okay. So, we got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
So first of all, the UFC over this weekend was very, very, very interesting. It was a very interesting fight. So there was the Darren Till fight, and then there was a lot of other fights in the card, and there were good fights. But I want to talk specifically about it was a female fight. And it was, hold on, let me,
That's the only one I didn't watch because I don't support female fighters.
What are you talking about? What?
There was that crazy, Irish guy on it. No, he wasn't Irish.
Yes, Pimblett. Yeah.
He was
oh
insane.
my God. He is the...
good fight, though.
I guess so. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of activity.
Yeah, a lot of activity.
It was
that
good for the fans.
It's good, absolutely. And Paddy Pimblett is the next Conor McGregor for sure. Like, that's who he's trying to be. That's exactly
I think he even said it. Like, it's my turn now. Forget Conor.
No, it was very interesting because I was having flashbacks to, when Conor first came out and just trash talking everybody. And I have very rarely come to dislike someone so quickly as I have Paddy Pimblett. He's, for the guys who don't know, he's a cage rage champion, a British champion, got recruited to the UFC, came in with great expectations, and his Brazilian opponent, Luigi, I forgot his last name, Vendramini, is quite good. And Vendramini was starching him in the beginning. Was really starching him. But Paddy Pimblett started throwing bombs. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, this kid won because he has a chin.
Oh, yeah, that first hit?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That would have knocked out like 90% of the people.
Right. I mean, but that means that when you get up to the higher levels, they're gonna expose those weaknesses. Mm-hmm. I don't see Paddy Pimblett as being like the next UFC champion. I don't see it. I mean, I think he'll be in the contender race, or he'll be like Sugar Shane O'Malley. Like, he'll always be around, probably. But I think he's one of those guys that is maybe a bit overhyped.
I mean, you can't win a championship trying to win based on your chin. Like,
yeah,
you're just
exactly.
Gonna get hit
right.
times.
Frankie Edgar tried that, and I mean, eventually did he get the championship, but he lost it, and then when his chin gave out, that's it. His career's over. Yeah. So Pimblett just seems to me like a kid who's
he's very young though. Does he think he has, if he finds the right training, the right team to fix the holes in his game? Yeah,
I think that's true with anyone. But when you have that much of an ego attitude, it's hard to do that, right? But then again, you're right. It's very possible. But I see a lot of flaws in his game, and he did not live up to the hype, even though he wound up knocking Vendramini out. I mean, he really did. It was good. It was a significant battle. I mean, back and forth. You're right.
He needs a haircut, though. I mean, come on. God. Can we do change.org position?
It's like the Beatles called. They want their haircut back.
Yeah. Everybody's called.
It's like the worst haircut. I think that's his signature thing. He's like, I'll be so anti-fashion that it's fashionable, kind of thing.
Right.
There was a couple fights. So the one I want to talk about is Kelly McCann, the meatball versus Yi-Jan Kim. Now, this is actually similar to the Pimblett fight too. So this is a really interesting fight. Yi-Jan Kim is technically really, really skilled. Like, this girl has clean boxing. Clean boxing. And Molly McCann is a little bit like Patty Pimblett. They're brawlers. They're like, Brit brawlers, right? They come to brawl. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Do you know what the reach advantage that the Korean girl had? Don't look. Do you know what the reach advantage was?
10 inches. I don't know.
Yes, that's right.
What?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
She had a 10-inch reach advantage.
That's unnatural.
That's insane. That's insane.
Holy crap.
I think that's probably the largest reach advantage ever in the female division and one of the top reach advantages ever in the UFC. I've never heard of a 10-inch reach advantage in a fight before. I can't recall one. I mean, John Jones probably has longest reach, but there are a lot of guys in his division
72
who has like maybe 7 reach advantage, something like that.
But reach is 72.
Yeah.
And she's 5'7".
And she's good. So she has reach. So the common understanding of striking is this, that if you have a reach advantage, the likelihood that you'll win the fight is very, very high. Combine that with her clean technique, because a lot of times people have reach advantage. Like John Jones is a great example. He has a reach advantage, and he does some things that are wrong. That are just wrong. They're wrong. You're not supposed to do them. But he gets away with them because nobody can hit his face, because he just, the distance of his hand to his nose is so long that people can't take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. And Adesanya, obviously, he's very skilled, and he has reach as well. But what do you think happened in this fight? You didn't see it, right?
No.
What do you think happened? Because remember, I said that the Korean girl is technically quite an excellent boxer. She's very skilled.
So on paper, Molly shouldn't have won.
Right. On paper, she shouldn't have won. And then Molly beat the Korean girl down. I mean, it was a fight. The Korean girl, Kim, she came to fight. She's a warrior. But she was not able to deploy her advantages in a strategically tactical way that made them the use of
the art of war. Come on,
right, exactly, and it was really interesting. So the strategy when you're outgunned in terms of reach, what the shorter fighters should do is either get really close so you're inside it, and then also throw overhands. So, and what the other fighter should do is throw jabs and keep him at bay and keep them at the reach. Now, if you had the reach and you have reach on me, say I came in on you in the distance, say I came in, what is not allowed in boxing that you could use in MMA or Muay Thai that would make it also difficult for the other fighter? And this is what John Jones does too.
Elbows?
Exactly.
I'm on fire.
You are on fire. No, but you're obviously a connoisseur of MMA. So when Molly McCann came in on Kim's range, Kim was trying to just box. Man, she should have thrown elbows. And but she would get in a range, and then McCann would grapple up and tie her up a little bit too. And also, Frey was not using like this is one thing to have a jab, but imagine if I jabbed you, Matt, and you're like, man, I didn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. Well, you just keep walking forward, and here, like, well, you have to have what we call a stiff jab. You got to put some sauce into it. And so while Kim was throwing her jab, she was not stopping McCann in her tracks. She was not stopping her forward momentum. So almost the entire fight, Kim is actually on her back foot, backing up. And then she would get eaten with the overhands, and then the girl would come inside. And the interesting thing is, it wasn't like McCann was being tricky like Adesanya or some of the other fighters, or like playing angles. She was just walking straight forward. Mm-hmm. Not techno. She's just walking the other girl down. And so it was a very interesting fight. Like, if you have the reach advantage, how can you maximize it? And when it's not going for you, what's your backup plan? And it seemed like it was very hard for Kim to make the adjustments to fight, and she got her eyes shut from overhands, and then that was it. She lost. She really lost, and so I give McCann credit. Now I cannot say that I feel that McCann is a technically great striker. I can't say that, but she is. This is an interesting thing. So a student asked me this in the class, and I've talked about this before. Technique matters. But there's things that matter more. And we talked about this before. So if I were more technical and I'm fighting you, it doesn't matter what martial art, because this is true universally, even in martial arts that are not as effective in the cage. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what martial art. So if I am more technical than you, what things do you think you could do to give yourself an advantage?
Use a gun.
No.
What?
Use a gun. Yes, use a gun. Okay, well, let's actually talk about a gun. Well, it's in your pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you have to do? You have to draw it,
Like
right?
get it out, yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean? So that's a funny answer you said, but what does it mean? You have to have what? You have to be the guy who does what?
I mean, distance.
That's true. Okay, that's not a wrong answer. Those are all good answers. But what we're talking about is, say we're facing each other. I'm more technical. You have to lead the dance. You have to have the initiative.
Okay.
If you're constantly reacting to what I do, it's much harder for you to win. Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm constantly reacting to you, right? I can't bring you to what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so initiative is key. And that's aggression. Now, what I mean aggression, I don't mean like barbarian, rah, right? But it could be that too. But it could be like I'm constantly making you go like crap, oh shoot, crap, oh man, crap, oh whoa, what's going on here? God damn it, I can't keep track of what she's doing. I have to be aggressively in your face, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when I'm aggressively in your face, still the technical person can win. But when I am leading the dance, I have an advantage. But what if I lead the dance and stop? I just go one punch and stop. What are you going to do?
Punch you back?
Exactly. You're going to punch me back. So this is where it comes to what in jiu-jitsu we call flow, right? You don't throw one punch and stop. You don't do one guard pass and stop. In wrestling, you don't hit a single, oh, it didn't work, I stop. No, you flow through the moves. You link them together. One plus another, plus another, plus another, and plus another. It's a great quote from Hellson Gracie. Hellson Gracie was, and I told this story many times in the podcast, so for the listeners who already know it, I'm sorry. I'm going to repeat myself, but it's very apropos. Hellson Gracie was teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, to other Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in Philadelphia way before the UFC. It was like 1990, 1989, something like that. And so he's teaching, his stuff, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, oh, this is cool, blah, blah, blah. And then all the other jiu-jitsu practitioners are like, we respect your art, but we do jiu-jitsu and you do jiu-jitsu and you just taught us arm bars and things like that, things we already do. So what's the difference in your art and our art? And he was trying to explain the strategic that jiu-jitsu is always looking for positional dominance and this and that, right? But they didn't get it because they don't think in those terms of like position. Japanese just doesn't really think like that, right? So they don't think in terms of position. They didn't really understand what he's trying to tell them. So then he's like this. Okay. This is what Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is. You do this, I do that. 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 Forever. Meaning it's a constant flow. I'm constantly flowing from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, basing off of what your reactions are, going here, going here, going here, going here, going here, constantly leading you into my traps, into my things. So flow is super important. Now, which do you think is more important? Flow or technique?
Flow.
You're right.
Yeah.
Most people who are martial artists would say technique. They'll say technique is more important. Man, technique is everything. Technique is important, and absolutely you want technique. But if you have a guy, and I've said this in other episodes of the podcast, if you have a guy who has really good technique, but doesn't take the initiative, doesn't have a good tactical strategy, and doesn't have flow, he will or she will lose to the person who has those things, but lesser technique.
Are you saying that we should be like water?
You should be like water, actually. Be like water, my son. From what movie was that from? Kung Fu Panda?
I was quoting Bruce Lightly.
Bruce Lightly.
Bruce Lightyear.
No, I think the Shifu from Kung Fu Panda says.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I have it on a coffee mug at home.
Yeah. Yes, be like water. No, but that's a catchphrase for Bruce Lee for sure. But so flow is super, super, super important.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever seen like some of those CCTV footage of like street fights?
Yeah. I got a website for you if you want some.
Yeah. No,
fights.
which one? What is it?
It's crazyshit.com.
Oh, you got to send it to me for now. I know what it is. But no, I have a collection of a lot of street fights that I advertise.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, like people who have trained martial arts go up against a street fighter and they don't do well. Now, there are a lot of things you could say for that. Maybe the street fighter took him by surprise and this and that. There's a lot of things. But also, street fighters understand aggression and flow. Very often, good street fighters, they understand that. So they're not about the technique. They're about being in your face and not ever letting you recuperate your equilibrium.
Keep you uncomfortable.
Yeah, keep you uncomfortable. Like, and they start that. Street fighters start this with their verbal assault. So like, like when they're about to attack you, they constantly put you off. Like, what's going on here? I don't know. And when you're like, that's when they attack you. And then you're always like, whoa, crap, and then it's over. And you're done. So constantly keeping you off balance, keeping you out of like your comfort zone is a really, really important part of fighting. And constantly, like we talked about the OODA loop, which is constant motion, different angles. It comes from Korean War fighter planes. Constantly reorienting yourself so you keep the person guessing. It's very, very important. And Molly McCann had aggression, and man, this girl was flowing. She was on fire. Technique was not that great. That was okay. It's not like terrible. She had a decent jab. It was okay, but mostly overhands, bombs, and dirty boxing from the inside. And just keeping it dirty and in the girl's face. And the Korean girl technique was like clean. I mean, like I was looking at her, I'm like, man, I wish some of my students would strike like that. To have that clean jab and extension. Her body form was everything good. But then she's got the snot kicked out of her. So obviously technique counts. But there are other intangibles, which I was trying to explain to one of my students recently. He's like, yeah, when I rush and, I feel like I lose my technique. And I'm like, yeah, don't rush. But you got to be in the other guy's face. You have to constantly, that doesn't mean you have to always attack. You can pull back. But you got to lead the dance. The chance of you winning when you're not leading the dance is much lower than when you are. And grabbing the initiative of the fight by the cojones and never letting go, that's one of the most important things to win a fight. And, I was training with G. G's getting ready for his fight next week.
Yeah.
And I was training with G, and he was tired. But, a few times that I do well against G is when I constantly make him react to me. And when I sit back and let him do his thing, he crushes me. And the other night I was like, I actually had a pretty good night because my surgeries, I think I mentioned to you that, I had a bunch of surgeries and they're starting to heal up. So I'm slowly coming back.
It was kicking me in the head today.
I did, right? It was my new pants, which we'll talk about. Got these pants that don't rip. But that was a great fight. I have never seen a fight with such a reach disadvantage ever in that I can recall in the women's division, and I don't think I've ever seen in the men's division in the UFC. I've seen it in other organizations, especially ones that don't have the equal weight classes. So there's the Japanese fights where I had like a guy who was like 5'2" versus a 6 foot tall sumo wrestler. We've had that before, but not in the UFC where it's you're fighting a weight class. Yeah. But Patty Pimblett and Molly McCann, both Brits, had very similar things where they were not letting their Pimblett like really took the initiative, and that's when he won. So Luigi was doing well, and then Pimblett, who has a very smart, this guy has fighter sense. I mean, I don't like him, but he has fighter sense, right? But he took initiative, and then he never freaking let it go, and he was just on Luigi like a rabid Wolverine. Just, and the way he dropped him wasn't very technical. It was just big bombs. Yeah. But he hit him, and then Luigi was like, whoa, crap. He hit him again, and Luigi was like, whoa, crap. And there was a crap, and then it was boom. And it was done. right?
Yeah.
So those are those two fights. They're very interesting. Then, did you see the Khalil Roundtree versus the Bukauskas fight? Oh, that was brutal.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, so Khalil Roundtree is a very interesting guy. He was like over 300 pounds and got into MMA to lose weight and wound up becoming a top level contender. And he's very, 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 laudable individual because he's really likable, very nice guy. I don't think he's like the best guy in the division, but he's been taking his training very, very seriously. And he's also originally a musician, a very high level musician. So his work ethic in terms of detail is very good. But he was fighting Bukauskas, and Bukauskas is supposed to be, quite good. And then he did the stomp sidekick on Bukauskas' knees, because Bukauskas was like turning his body like a boxer slightly to the side. His front knee was facing inwards. And I was watching my wife. I'm like, he's going to eat a really bad low kick in a second, because he was turning sideways like a boxer. Not as much as boxers do, but enough where it was a problem. And he wasn't moving out of the way. And then Khalil Roundtree pulls his foot to his chest and launches one of the hardest. And this kid is strong because he used to be over 300 pounds. He lost that weight. So his body was used to carrying a lot of weight all his whole life. So actually he's like, his strength is really, really high for his body type. Body was used to being extra heavyweight. And then of course he's training very, very hard and he works out. He's an extremely strong kid. He kicks Bukauskas' knee and the knee goes like this. Boom! And ACL, PCL, MCL, shredded. The kid can't get up. He's like, whoa. It was horrific. I mean, it was the Yoel Romero kick to Whitaker all over again, but worse. The guy didn't get up.
This headline, UFC demands career-ending technique be banned after KO.
The
UFC stars demand.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, you can't ban that. Right? I mean, come on. That's like, just don't turn your knee in.
Eesh.
Yeah, it's bad. But, there's a way to prevent that, and a career-ending thing could also be, a heel hook too. You cannot ban, if they ban this move, I will be extremely, extremely, disappointed.
I can't find a video of it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll find one, but it's quite gruesome. It's quite gruesome. And then, okay, but let's move on to the main event. The main event, Brunson versus Till. What was your take on that?
I don't understand why Till keeps getting fights.
Till is good.
He's good, but he's
one dimensional.
Yeah,
that's a fact. So it goes back to everything. What have I said about MMA all the time? What is the single most important technical skill that correlates to win?
Get the back.
That's your upper body control.
Yeah.
Upper body grappling. Okay? That starts standing and the ground. Now, particularly standing. If you cannot stop takedowns, there's no way you can strike.
And he wasn't very good at that.
No, he was terrible. And his stance was really high. Till is very light on his feet, and he's a very good kickboxer. He has a very good kickboxing record. But he was, did you see he was fighting Brunson? He was hitting Brunson really hard.
Yeah.
Like Brunson was, and okay, so this is the thing. Brunson's won a lot of his matches. The only match that he's lost out of his last 5 or 6 was his title shot against, or his shot against Adesanya. That's the only last fight he lost. So let me double check that. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but let me double check. So I sometimes my memory escapes me, but here, okay. So the last fight he lost was in, I think it says 2018 in Adesanya. Hold on. Yeah, this is UFC 230. That was a while ago. And
I just found a video of that kick. So the last fight that Brunson lost was, and then he beat Elias Theodorou. He beat Ian Heinisch. He beat Edmund Shabazian. He beat Kevin Holland, and now he beat Darren Till. And Shabazian, Holland, and Till, he won the exact same way, which is take the guy down and ground and pound. And let me tell you, his ground and pound, his body control, his way of getting you to the ground, and he got his black belt, actually. I didn't know that, but he got his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And this kid is good, man. His takedowns and then his upper body control of Till
negated. And Till's also, like, off his back, looked like rolled over horse manure. Now, part of that is because Brunson is good. So, like, when you're fighting someone good, when you're fighting someone really good, a lot of times they make you look really bad. It's like you can't help that. That's true. They're so good that they make you look like bad. That happened to Rickson Gracie and a couple of other original Gracie guys. So they're like, when the Gracies first came out, you know, people are like, oh, you know, the Gracies just won because everybody else sucked. And that's not true. That's not true. There's Gerard Gordeau was one Royce Gracie fought in the first UFC. Rickson fought a lot of different guys in his fights in Japan. Some of them weren't good, but many of them were. And they made them look like they knew nothing because they were technically so much better. They were better. But it's not like those guys were bad, particularly in the striking element. Some of the people in the early UFC, in the early Pride and early Valley Tudo Japans, those generation fighters, some of those guys were very good. But they were very good in one-dimensional ways. And that is what Darren Till is. He's very good in one dimension, and the other dimensions, he's just not. And his guard was bad. And he also, you know, he has long arms. So he does for the listeners out there, when you have long arms, this is how not to fight when you're on the ground. And this is what a lot of people do when they do sport jiu-jitsu. So you're trying to punch me, right? Or say I'm trying to punch you, right? I'm trying to punch you because you have long arms than me. So you're on your back. Now you have really long arms. So what you do is you bench press me and push me so that you can maybe stand up or something like that, right? Or whatever.
I tickle you.
No, but let's say you push me with your long arms, right? That's a thing that works a lot in sport jiu-jitsu. And to post on the opponent, to post, especially beginners. Advanced guys don't do it. So I'm not going to say this is endemic in sport jiu-jitsu, but a lot of times at the white, blue, in the purple belt level, the guy's trying to pass your guard and you just push his head. You just push him back. You post your arm like you're pushing your hand.
My older brother used to do.
Right, exactly. But this is on the ground, right? Yeah. But the problem with that is now you have no defense to punches.
Uh-oh.
Right. So what Brunson did was stapled Till's leg to the floor with his shin. He put his shin over the leg. That's called a staple. Then Till tried to bench press him, basically push him with his arm. And Brunson's like, oh, really? Overhand, bam, because your face is undefended. You should not extend your arms like that. And his face, and he just started bashing him. Then he passed the guard. And then Till actually tried to elevate him. He tried to do a good move. He tried to elevate him with the butterfly hook, but completely failed, got mounted. Then what did he do? What did Till do? He was mounted. What did he do? You saw the fight, right?
Not that detail. I don't remember what he did.
Well,
he lost.
He lost. He rolled over on his belly.
Oh, that's right. He took the back.
He gave up his back.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to escape the mount properly.
So that's one of those instances where he didn't take the back. He got given. He gave a gift.
Yeah, it was like he put a bow around it. He put it in a box. He put a bow around it. Nice. Wrote a thank you card. Yeah. And here you go. A nice card. I am giving this wonderful present to you. Here you go. Now I'm going to lose. Oh, please take the choke. Dude, don't roll on your fucking back, on your belly. Don't give up your back. That's the most obvious thing. I
know that.
Everybody knows that. But it's this disease that has infected MMA where it's like instead of defending the mount properly, instead of doing that, instead of doing the hard work of getting out of these bad positions, I'm going to roll over and give up my back.
Yeah.
And
you said that a couple weeks ago. I think we did
a whole episode. We did a whole episode on it. Listen to my episode, Darren. No, but I'll tell you, it's also with guys who are explosive and athletic, like we said before. Instead of putting the hard work and the hard time in to defend the mount with punches. Because anybody can defend a mount easily without punches. Defend the mount with punches. With punches. Without giving up your back. That takes time. It takes effort. You have to put the work in. It's much easier to roll over, give a brap, and try to explode off. And there's sometimes, like people say, oh, well, I get away with it. Well, you get away with it because you're fast and strong. When you fight someone who's just as fast and as strong, you get choked out. And you don't want to give up your back to Derek Brunson. Don't give up your back to this guy. What are you doing? It was absolutely terrible. It was terrible. But Till has always had, I mean, he got tapped out by Tyron Woodley. He's always had, it's funny, the commentator, it was Bisping was commentating. And, he's very partial to the British fighters, because he's British, right? Of course. I mean, that's nice. He's not rude. I don't know if he's rooting for them. He probably is, but he's trying to be nice and partial because, of course, it's his countrymen. And he's like, he's trying to be nice. He's like, of course, I've trained with Darren Till, and he puts the work into jiu-jitsu, but nobody would say that Till is a jiu-jitsu whiz off his back. And he's trying to say it in a nice way. Basically, you're trying to be nice and say that yes, he sucks, but he doesn't want to say that. He's like, yeah, he knows triangles and arm bars, but he's not gonna be that much of a threat to someone like Derek Brunson while he's on his back. No shit, Sherlock. He's not even, he's like 0% threat. Put the work in and do the hard stuff and
It's your
stop
job.
using athletics.
Be good at your job.
Yeah. But it's the problem with a lot of strikers is that they love striking. They feel comfortable there and they don't put the work. It's the opposite of Ben Askren, who was like, Ben Askren never put the work in to be a good striker. It was terrible because he could mostly in the gym get away with what he was doing. But that's in the gym, practice what you're not good at. And also don't give up the back. But anyway, that's this fight. Darren Till should not be ranked in the top 10. He shouldn't.
Well, he's probably top 10 British fighter, so they had to put him on the card.
Was it in England? I thought it was in the Apex, right? But okay, so this is Darren Till's record so far. Okay, let's go. Okay, so he lost to Tyron Woodley. He lost to Jorge Masvidal. He did beat Kevin Gastelum by decision split. He lost to Robert Whittaker, and he lost to Derek Brunson. So everybody except Kevin Gastelum in the last 5 fights he won. But he did have a good run before that. He beat Donald Cerrone he beat Stephen Thompson. Okay, you got to give the guy credit for that.
I mean, do I?
But it's like Stephen Thompson.
20 years ago?
Yeah. It was Stephen Thompson, that guy comes to strike. So, it's going to be a glorified kickboxing match, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Donald Cerrone is just, is a little bit, over the hill. So what are you going to do, right?
Yeah,
he's a great fighter.
Put an asterisk on both of those fights.
Yeah. And then, Thompson's also getting older too. Tyron Woodley just destroyed him. He destroyed him. I mean, he choked him out beautifully. Jorge Masvidal knocked him out. It was the second round, I believe. And Kevin Gastelum, there's something wrong with Kevin Gastelum these days. He's just not putting it together. And then Robert Whittaker beat him soundly beat him. Soundly. And obviously Derek Brunson beat the crap out of him. So I would like to see, actually, what I'd like to see next is I would like to see Brunson versus Whittaker. The two people beat him. That would be an interesting fight. And then to see who wins that goes against Adesanya.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, that's my take on these fights. What was your opinion? I've been talking too much. What was your opinion?
The co-main event was interesting.
I didn't see it.
Quick knockout.
I didn't see it. Was that the guy with the mustache? The British guy with the mustache?
I think he had a mustache.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? I missed that one.
It was quick. It was first round. 2 minutes in.
Yeah.
Knock him out. It was good. I mean, again, I didn't watch the whole thing. Pick and choose, so I didn't see everybody.
It was the Aspinall Spivak fight.
Yeah.
Those guys are big boys. Those are big boys. Doesn't Tom Aspinall, does the guy with the mustache, doesn't he looks like he's like from the 1930s or something?
He looks like a villain from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that guy's name? Snidely Whiplash?
Snidely. That's what we'll call him. We'll call him Snidely.
He needs a fedora and he has a twist his...
Exactly, right. From the 1940s,
yeah. I'd get Dick Tracy on it or something.
Exactly. It's Snidely Whiplash. All right. So, that was the last UFC.
Is there anything else on your mind? What's on your mind, champ?
Well, a lot of my students, or just people I know, are asking me about political stuff lately, and are, because I obviously have studied military history,
and asked me about what was going on in Afghanistan. And I think that it's kind of interesting because it does segue into what it means, train a martial art appropriately. And it's not unrelated to what we're doing today. So we pulled out of Afghanistan, and I want to set the politics aside, whether you think it's a good thing or you think it's a bad thing, and set aside the handling of it, which I think we can all agree that the plot was could have been much less chaotic and much less of a human tragedy. Looks like they were doing better now, but obviously it was extraordinarily chaotic, and a lot of the aspects of the disentanglement from Afghanistan were not handled properly. But putting all those issues aside, the idea that do you know the history of Afghanistan? Do you know the history of Afghanistan?
Not well.
Not well. So
I know they took down the World Trade Center, right? Is that them?
That wasn't Afghanistan, it was the Taliban. But yeah, but the history of the country itself, right? So do you know Afghanistan has been known as the graveyard of empires. So in the modern era, do you know how many empires have tried to dominate Afghanistan? Well, the Soviets are most recently, right? Before us, right? Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, right? Yeah. And that was a disaster for them. One of the things that bankrupted their country, right? Before that was the British Empire. Absolute disaster, unsuccessful. Absolutely unsuccessful. But did you know that? It's not just those three empires in the modern era. Okay? Let's go back in history. Who is probably the greatest historical general that has ever lived of all time? At least in common mythology. Most people would say it would be Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah. He's pretty good. It's my top 10.
Alexander the Great invaded Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No.
He failed.
Yeah.
Completely.
All right.
And the only way he conquered, quote unquote, Afghanistan was through a political marriage. Because he couldn't win.
Sure.
So he's like, okay, I give up. Let's do this on the political side. And then he passed over and went into India. And then he wound up dying after that. But anyway, the illness. But Alexander the Great couldn't make it through Afghanistan. The Brits couldn't.
Yeah.
The Soviets couldn't. We couldn't.
What's so great
Alexander
about Afghanistan?
the Great, Afghanistan. No, let me finish. I'm not done yet.
Joe, there's more.
If you know the Tang Dynasty of China?
Nope.
One of the high points of the Chinese culture, 10th century dynasty. They butted up against Afghanistan.
Why?
Geographically, in terms of
okay,
culture and things like that, right? Do you realize their incursions into Afghanistan was what made the Tang Dynasty go bankrupt and set them up for the fall of that dynasty? One of the things, it's a complex issue.
Leave Afghanistan alone.
Yeah.
There's something that's cursed or something.
So the history of empires in Afghanistan is replete with failure.
Yeah.
So the idea that we could go in and dominate it militarily is completely overlooking history. This is just as a middle-aged historian, you have to look at this is called the graveyard of empires for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. Now, then let's look at what we tried to do. We tried nation building on our terms.
We brought democracy.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's really helpful, right? Except the entire government was a complete disaster, and by all accounts, absolutely insanely corrupt. And it's funny because I have a personal contact. I won't mention the name, but I have a personal contact whose family, when we invaded, went back to Afghanistan. They lived here in America. They were in America for years, and they went in as part of that rebuilding team. But they weren't part of the Afghani government, right? They were these, diaspora of Afghanis that were wealthy and had left and tried to re-import themselves into the administration. Many of them did, but they were really corrupt. And we had a corrupt administration there. That was it. But this is not what I really want to talk about. What I want to talk about is, and you could say we want to bring democracy, whatever. So basically, we are empirically imposing our views of what's right with, women's rights, all these things. Democracy are good. But what are we going to do? Invade every country that's not a democracy and impose democracy? Worked out really well in Iraq too. Worked out, so that's not what I want to talk about.
Right.
What I want to talk about is our training of the military. So our goal, which we pushed $3 trillion into, $3 trillion was to train the Afghani military. Now, I showed you a video last week.
Greatest army in the world.
Yeah. Explain the video that I showed you of our soldiers training Afghani soldiers. Well, explain what I showed you.
Well,
it's actually quite hilarious.
Picture in your mind a gym teacher teaching a class to kindergartners, trying to get their attention and trying to teach them how to do simple techniques.
Jumping jacks.
Jumping jacks. And not being able to kind of...
It's actually hilarious. You got to see it. Just go everybody Google Afghan Army fail. And it's this drill instructor trying to teach these kids, adult males how to do jumping jacks. And they're failing, right? It's completely failures, which is a metaphor for exactly the entire experience in Afghanistan.
Ashton Kutcher is going to come out and punk everybody or something. It's
exactly.
a joke.
It's so funny. But basically, so what are we trying to do? We're trying to put, in that sense, Western fitness standards onto like a Afghani irregular.
Presidential fitness challenge.
Right,
Schwarzenegger.
Right, exactly. Well, how is that relevant to what they're doing? So, these Afghanis are used to living in their own neighborhood, in their own environment, right? Their own context. They're fine for that kind of guerrilla war. What we were trying to do is train the Afghani army to be the American army. But the American army failed in Afghanistan. We failed. We never, ever, ever conquered Afghanistan or pacified it. We never did. 20 years. We've been there 20 years. Right? So, but why do we feel geographically, culturally? It's geographically, particularly, it's not the place where a conventional army can have success. So we ever look at a conventional battlefield, like let's say the Battle of the Bulge, right? Or the Battle of Stalingrad, or the invasion of Iraq, which was the largest actually tank battle in history with General Schwarzkopf, where it was like
Storm and
Norman, right, all that right hook of those are wide open spaces. The fields, one of the reasons why European military tactics developed the way they did is because of European geography. Okay? There's lots of wide open space in Europe. Mm-hmm. Unlike Japan. Like Japan, there's the reason why Japanese samurai tactics exist the way they are is because of geography. There's not a lot of there are wide open space in Japan, but there's not like like in mainland China or in Japan.
Yeah.
Very, very different. And Afghanistan is just this inhospitable mountain range. There's no big infantry army is just going to go in. It's going to be an irregular guerrilla activity, which is why the Afghanis kicked the snot out of us over time of a long-term asymmetrical attack on a large-scale, conventional military force, which is exactly what you want to do when you're training jiu-jitsu. You want to have these asymmetrical nibbling away. But what we were trying to do was train the Afghanis to be like us, which is totally the wrong thing. Now, listen to this. So there was a great op-ed in the New York Times by an Afghani general saying that America betrayed us, blah, blah, blah. But even he admits that the Afghani army could not function without the way it was designed to be, the way it was, without U.S. logistical support and airstrikes. You just couldn't function. So the only thing that was allowing the Afghani army to succeed was that U.S. had fighter planes with bombing capability, laser targeting capability from the air, because that's actually very effective. It's the only thing that gave us that advantage. Because on the ground, without air power, they were kicking the snot. The Taliban were kicking the snot out of the Afghani army, and actually, unfortunately, very often, were very successful against our troops too. Obviously, there were times where the American forces were successful, particularly special forces. They're highly trained, and I respect their commitment and what they did there. They served their country in a very honorable way. And of course, we had some wins, but over time, you can see that we lost. Like we're not designed for long-term irregular combat. Irregular means not conventional army, but guerrilla tactics. That's not what America is designed for. Mm-hmm. And we are trying to train the Afghani army to be like us. So basically, you're trying to make them like us, but we failed. Mm-hmm. So
Now, how much industries does Afghanistan have? How much industry do they have? Not much. Not much. Do they have computer chips? Do you think they're big place to make computer chips?
Mr. Dusty.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Do they have a big steel manufacturing hub? No.
I think Ford is made there.
Yeah, right, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So basically, we gave them all these like helicopters and planes,
And then what?
but they have no way to repair them.
Yeah.
They have no way to replace stuff. They have no
what a
training.
waste of money.
Yeah. So the minute we pulled out, what are they doing? They're
Scrapping them?
sitting on the tarmac and nobody can use them. So you're training them to do something that they can't do.
America.
Yeah, right. So there's no logistical support.
But do they have McDonald's there now?
I don't know. No, but seriously, let me finish. Let me finish, right? There's no jokes, right? Let me finish. So there's no logistical support. And beyond that, there's no supply chain support.
Yeah.
So I want to say, so what does this have to do with martial arts? So that's why it's a total failure. Trying to make them into something they can't be. That's what we were trying to do. And we tried to do that in a lot of nations. We've tried that before a lot of times, trying to train armies to be like us, and they weren't unsuccessful. That type of military does not work in Afghanistan. It's never worked. So why are you trying to make them like us? Don't let them fight like I have to give Ronald Reagan credit. What he did was he supported the Mujahideen in the 80s against the Soviets in an irregular warfare. He said, hey, take the money and fight the way you want. We'll give you some Sidewinder missiles. Okay, you'd use them the way you want. That's what you should have done.
Mm-hmm.
Let them organize on their own in irregular troops and fight them on the battlefield they know. What do they need to do jumping jacks for? They know how to hang out in their environment. They've lived there. We don't need to train them all over again to be, carrying a rucksack of high-level, high-tech American equipment over the, we don't need to do that. Right. They know how to live in their environment. We're trying to import our values and we're trying to import our military systems artificially. And that's a failure. And I'm not trying to get political here, but yeah, it's like, we're trying to import democracy or women's rights or whatever. That's great. That's great. That's great. But they have no history of that. They have no logistical context for those values. So of course it's not going to be sustainable. That being said, it is a human tragedy, a humanitarian tragedy that the women there will be more oppressed. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can't artificially impose either certain types of training or certain types of values if there's no ground for it to take hold. Now, let's take away from Afghanistan. What does this have to do with martial arts? What do you think this has to do with martial arts? This is where everybody else, we're all relevant.
I don't know.
Okay, so what's your cardio like? Sucks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I tried to take you in a fight and I said, okay, we're going to put you in a fight tomorrow. And we're going to train you for a 10-round war. Okay, you got to last all those 10 rounds. You got to, because I'm a cardio machine, Matt. So you're going to be a cardio machine too. Okay?
Let's go.
What's going to happen?
I'm going to gas out.
You're going to gas out and you're going to kill. I'm training you to be me.
Yeah.
Don't train your student. Don't train your student to be. I have a high-level friend of mine, and he's trained under a very, very high-level instructor, and he's actually very good. He's very good. I don't want to say what martial art or anything like that because this sounds like trash talking. But he was trying to photocopy the game plan of his instructor. But that instructor has a very unique body type. I know, I've trained with him. Very unique body type. And very unique way of moving. I'm like, you're never going to be him. You got to be you. You got to be you. So Matt, if you were going to get into a fight, what are your advantages? First of all, what compare you to me? Who's taller?
I'm taller.
Right.
By a little bit.
By quite a bit. I think I'm up to maybe your chest, kind of. I don't even know if I make it to your chest. So your height is your advantage.
Yeah.
Your weight, not your cardio. Probably not your speed. So that's what's going to bring your fight. Now, you're a totally different person than me. So people out there, don't train to be your instructor. Train to be yourself. Train to find out what works for you as a martial artist, right? This is the moral of the story. And this military is the same
things apply to the military that apply to one-on-one combat. Just the mass combat is just a larger scale, but the principles are exactly the same. Sun Tzu said it, and Miyamoto Musashi said it. He's like, mass combat and the individual combat, the larger rules are the same. Now, the other thing is this. I'm coming up to teach the self-defense class soon, because we're going to talk about it on the podcast, but there's a outbreak of anti-Asian hate here, and it's very sad. So I'm trying to do something to ameliorate that. But I don't want to say too much, but I was teaching a self-defense class to these people. And I want to say one example. So what if I was teaching a self-defense class and I saw a bunch of 50-year-old out of shape women who never fought in their lives before, which is actually, statistically speaking, a targeted group for sexual assault. 40 middle-aged women who are out of shape are preyed upon statistically very often by, sexual predators, because it's an easy target, right? So if I'm going to teach them self-defense, I'm like, jab, cross, hook, bomb. Do you think that's appropriate? Right? Boom, go. Krav Maga them in the face. Right? Does that sound appropriate to you?
No.
And that's the biggest problem with most self-defense, is you're trying to take the understanding of combat sports of a high-level athlete and putting them into a person who's absolutely incapable of doing that without significant lifestyle changes and training and things like that. So, you're training with me, right, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing the rear naked choke.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you practice that rear naked choke, you and me? Well, good amount of times, right?
20
times, right?
30.
Have you mastered it?
No.
How long do you think it would take for you to master that choke? That one move?
I don't know, a couple of years?
That's right. That's exactly right. That's one move.
Yeah.
How many moves are there in fighting?
A lot, more than one.
So the journey of martial arts is a lifetime. Now, what if you're a 50-year-old? You're going to change you. You're a 50-year-old lady who has 3 kids and maybe runs a little store and, has a lot of responsibilities, a little store, somewhere on the street. So very, mom and pop store. So you're running that store. You have 3 kids. You have a mortgage payment. You have all this. Maybe you have to take care of your mom as well. So you have kids and your extended family and you have all these responsibilities. Do you have like 2 hours to put in every night to be, the next, Dominic Cruz or Amanda Nunes?
I got to rest my feet after running after these kids all day.
Right. That's absolutely ridiculous to take self-defense and tell people the things that we do in combat sports will work for you and stuff. Well, they will work if you train like a combat athlete.
Sure.
Absolutely. And they are the most effective ways of being a combat athlete. But there's no way that 50-year-old lady, overweight lady, without a significant amount of training can be a combat athlete. Now, that being said, there are instances where a 50-year-old lady has taken jiu-jitsu or boxing or something seriously, very seriously, trained hard, and had some amazing life-changing success. I'm all for that. That's what I think you should do. That's amazing. Adding martial arts to your life and be taking it seriously is one of the most powerful, enriching things you can absolutely do. And then you can have some success. Also, a lower level assault. Maybe then, and this is something I used to not believe in, but the data empirically has proven me wrong, that you teach a couple things here and there for lower level criminals. It's possible. I used to think it was impossible. It's possible for them to use some jiu-jitsu techniques and actually have success. One of them is a triangle choke. Like there was that woman, said it before in the podcast, where she learned a triangle choke because she took a self-defense class at the dojo where her little son was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. She took the self-defense class maybe for, an hour, learned a triangle choke. Then, 7-8 days later, someone tried to rape her. And she put him in a triangle choke and choked him out. And that is not an isolated story. There was another, a U.S. infantryman person who did the same thing with limited training and did the same thing. And there's been stories like that where because of the efficiency of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at a lower level assault, it is possible to make them work. right? So there's elements of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because the efficiency is so high that you can bring some of that in. But then again, you still have to understand that a high level, like, okay, so my wife last night showed me that there's this guy in New York who's been targeting Asian Americans. He has 27 arrests. He's gone to jail and he's targeted. He gets arrested. They put him out on bail and he attacks an Asian American again. He's done it 27 times, or 27 arrests. I don't know, just Asian hate. But this guy is a hardened criminal. And you look at him, he's a scary looking dude. He's understands aggression, like we talked about before. He understands the flow and the initiative and that street fight, all that thing. Because all he's been doing is street fighting. And he's a hateful, awful, despicable human being with no ethics or morals. And you're going to put that 50-year-old lady who's trained 45 minutes last week and think you're going to survive against him? Good luck, good fucking luck with that. So most of these self-defense programs, they'll teach you, oh, palm strike to the face. Oh, this, that. They don't fucking work because you're trying to take this context and put it here, over here. So you're trying to take the American military and put it in Afghanistan. You're trying to take this combat sport lifestyle, the martial art lifestyle, and make it with this 50-year-old old lady. Do you think she can do that? Absolutely not. Now, if she put the time in, she could, but not with a 145-minute course. So the idea that taking a Krav Maga course or a combatives course or whatever, self-defense course, right, for 1 hour is going to radically change this person's outcome in self-defense in terms of self-preservation, given a violent, committed opponent, is pure, unadulterated fantasy and is the wrong thing to give them. Now, so I was teaching self-defense and I had this example. I was trying to teach something very simple, right? And I had this group of individuals who were the least fighter-like individuals I've ever trained in my life. And I had about 100 of them. Oh, they did a seminar. I don't want to get too into details because it'll sound a little bit bigoted, but because there's a little stereotype, I'm not going to say it, but they were wonderful guys, wonderful people, but they were the least fighter-oriented people I've ever trained in my life. And so immediately I said, wow, what I was going to train today, there's no way they can do. What I'm going to do is train this one thing, simple thing that they can do, which was how to, when someone's trying to take a punch or hit you with the baseball bat or whatever, how not to get knocked out and then how to flee. Keep it super simple, something you can remember, one technique. And we did it for an hour, over and over and over and over again. Actually, it was almost 2 hours. Right? Over and over, how not to get hurt when someone's trying to hit you with something, and then how to run away. And that made me really radically think how I approach self-defense. So if you're not going to walk the martial art path, but your mom or your sister or your great aunt or whoever, your cousin, they're not going to walk that martial path, but they want to feel safe, get a can of mace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get a can of mace. Or if it's allowed, open carry of a knife or something and practice with it. And you still got to practice with it. So my self-defense course right now, for the people who are not interested in putting the time in to learn martial arts, then don't try to teach them martial arts. Someone who's not going to put the time into martial arts should not be learning martial arts. What we're going to do is cherry pick things that they can do. And my self-defense course is about deployment of tactical weapons that you can easily use and bring to bear, particularly mace. Bring it to bear. So make space, don't get hit, make space, pull out the mace, spray him. That's something an old lady can do.
Yeah.
You know, don't get hit, make space, spray him. Period. Otherwise, put the time in to be a martial artist. But trying to train them, punch the face, punch this. And you know what? There's a study out of the University of Texas about self-defense effectiveness. They did a whole study, I have to double check. It's the University of Texas. I'm pretty sure it is University of Texas, but I'll double check that. I think it was AMM. But they did the study, and there's a lot of studies, longitudinal studies of self-defense. And they found that when people train self-defense, they become much more confident. Now, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it translates into assertiveness in situations that are
like, for example, sexual pressuring, peer pressure for sexual favor, something like that, which is not violence per se in terms of like physical punching, but it is violence in the terms of I'm going to pressure you into, sexual situation, like a date rape, but kind of like when the guy's not violent in terms of punching, kicking, but is using his physical or emotional violence to get what he wants, right? Manipulation. So they're much more confident in that. And that's a good thing. But they found out in terms of actual physical altercations, there was no change, meaning it didn't work. Right. So there's a benefit in terms of, so teaching self-defense should start with awareness, confidence, assertiveness, things like that, emotional things. And then it should start to do things that actually fucking work, not palm strikes to the nose.
And that could be worse for you if you're more
eye
confident.
gouge, palm strike, knee the balls, kick him, get him down. That shit doesn't work. And to say it works is bullshit unless you're going to walk the martial art path.
Yeah.
Now, of course, statistically, we're not saying never always. I'm sure you could find a fight where someone did some self-defense class and she kicked the guy in the balls and he was like, oh, and she ran away. I'm sure that could happen. But statistical likelihood, particularly in a high-level aggressive opponent, level 1 opponent, meaning street thug who's been there and done that, bad guy. Kicking the ball is going to laugh at you, grab your hair and smash you against the head. Smash the wall against the head against the wall. And that's what happened to me when someone tried to murder me. Grabbed me by the hair and smashed my face against the wall. Then tried to pour lighter fluid on me, set me on fire. Because I was not prepared for the self-defense engagement at the time. I was only 12 years old, but, I was not prepared for that kind of engagement. The person outweighed me was, around 300 pounds, right? And assaulted me, right? But trying to teach martial arts to people who don't want to be martial artists or can't be martial artists, who are unprepared for what I call logistics in terms of the military. But what I'm saying here is in terms of their fitness level, their body strength level. Now, what I mean is not strength in terms of, like I can bench press 250 pounds, but like to use jiu-jitsu, you have to be a bit of an athlete. Your body has to be in decent shape. Now, you don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you have to have a minimum level of lower back strength. You have to have some lower back strength. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. So a lot of what we do in the beginning of class is developing your person's lower back strength with their bridging and things like that. So you don't get hurt by doing the move. Going to teach this old lady, 60-year-old lady. Oh yeah, bridge the guy off you. Bench press it, bridge this 250-pound guy off you. Right, bridge and roll. Good luck with that. She's gonna herniate her disc before she succeeds to do that. You should not be teaching people this. Yeah, and the Gracies say this. This is where I call out the Gracies. Jiu-jitsu is for everyone. Martial arts for everyone. Bull fucking shit. That is bullshit. It's for everyone who can put the time in and put the work in. If you can't put the time and the work in, it's not for you.
Right.
It's simple, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Boom.
Yeah.
Mic drop. Don't drop it.
It was like $2,000 this mic. No, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to meet people where they are.
Right. So you have to meet exactly. That's a great point. You have to meet people where they are. I can't take the modern understand the high-tech military of the U.S. with everything is microchipped and networked and this, and expect the Afghanis to reproduce that when they don't have any significant industry or high-tech, logistical support network or the supply chain foundation behind that.
Yeah,
they don't even have a functioning economy.
They don't even have Facebook over there.
I bet they do have Facebook.
I bet they do.
Right, but you know what I mean. And the same thing is true in martial arts. Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Right? So the idea that you're going to take a Krav Maga seminar, and I'm picking on Krav Maga, but it's not any combatives. And Taekwondo too. I've seen so many Taekwondo based, I just saw one yesterday, Taekwondo based self-defense. Well, you think you could do it, first of all, there's some ideas that say that Taekwondo is good for self-defense. That's depending on what they teach and what is going, techniques. But the idea that you're going to take a 60-year-old lady and she's going to effectively kick a guy or punch a guy,
yeah,
and she's not practicing. How many times do you think I've hit the bag? Practicing my punches. All my times bag work together. How many times have I hit the bag
to practice my jab, cross, hook, and my kicks.
Somewhere between 2 and 10,000 times.
Way more than that.
Oh, more than 10,000.
I probably punched the bag 1 million times.
Wow.
And I'm still, you do it every single day for hours on day for years. So I probably each time I'm punching the bag, like, let's say a couple hundred times.
Mm-hmm. For
years, I did that every day, sometimes twice a day. And I've been doing it for 40 years. And I still need work on my punches. Meet people where they are. Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And the entire martial arts world is built on a lie. On a lie. And it's not just the Gracies, but on a lie. That I can teach you a couple tricks that will help you out in a self-defense. No. Fuck the tricks. That's bullshit. Tricks need technique. They need practice. They need dedication. They need time. They need focus.
Tricks are for kids.
Tricks are for kids. Get a can of fucking mace. Get it, and I don't believe in, everybody should have firearms. I don't believe in that, but that's my personal opinion. But
non-lethal stuff.
Get something, get a weapon, get a stick.
So meet people where they are. How do people meet where you are if they want to take a self-defense class from Renee?
Right. So actually, this is the Professor Ken and I are going together. We're starting an anti-Asian hate self-defense class, but it's going to be open to everyone. It's the same curriculum I teach everybody. Now, concealed carry or open carry of mace in New York is actually illegal, but we still advise certain similar products which you deploy. You don't get hit, make space, deploy. Everything is about the deployment of a improvised self-defense tool. And there's many different ones we use, but primarily pepper spray, mace. Now, that's not a panacea. It can't save you from every situation, but it's definitely better than trying to, trust the palm strike to the nose of a 6'2", 190-pound guy who just got out of Rikers.
Can't even reach him.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. This thing, like this guy's a rapist, so 185, 190 pounds, 6'2", and you're a 90-year-old. Say if it's an Asian American hate crime, you're an 90-year-old, 50-year-old, Asian American lady who's probably 5'1", 90 pounds. Yeah, Krav Maga's really going to work there.
Nothing's going to work.
Yeah, no. You have to have a weapon. Now, you put a weapon in that lady's hands, then that's effective. Put a knife in their hands, something like that. Mm-hmm. That's effective. Weapons exist for a reason. Teaching people unarmed hand-to-hand combat without those students being dedicated day in, day out to the honing of those techniques and saying to them that that is going to work is most of the time a bold-faced lie. It will not work. Block, disengage, deploy a weapon, or just block, disengage, and run away. That's it. And the most important self-defense skills are awareness and understanding what's going on around you first. That's what people should be teaching. And that's actually what we teach first. So we're going to be talking about this program. We'll be doing it as a community service. As I said, we're being particularly targeting the Asian American community. We're going to have Professor Ken on as well. We're going to talk about it, but it'll be open to a lot of other people.
Very cool.
And it'll be, free completely for the community. But but we're not going to teach the bullshit that other people teach out there. Eye gouge, knee, that bullshit.
No bullshit.
Yeah.
Only results. That's the tagline. I just wrote it for you.
Thank you.
You can use that.
But I'm just sick and tired of hearing, like, this is for everyone, and they especially from the Krav Maga world. I don't want to focus on, but it's like there's a poster who's a Krav Maga evangelist on Quora, and the amount of ignorant bull that comes out of that person's mouth or typewriter or computer is unreal. And obviously you can tell this person has never, ever, ever, ever been in a street altercation that was successfully handled. This is never, you can just tell this person doesn't know what they're talking about.
Well, let's go find them and beat them up.
No. But there has to be some truth here. And this is to me what the UFC is. The UFC brought truth to martial arts, but we have to go beyond MMA and understand that majority of what people say in the martial world is a bold-faced lie.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is not for everyone. Martial arts is not for everyone. And 1 hour self-defense course isn't going to make a shit of difference for 90% of the population, given a committed, experienced, violent opponent.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
That was a good like loop, that arc that you went through. That was really good.
Well, thank you.
You should write that down and like put it on a blog or something. Write a paper.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Because it was really like you brought it all the way around.
Thank you.
To a good point.
Thank you.
Well constructed, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we've reached the end. Good episode. A lot of good fights at the beginning. A moral at the end.
A moral. There's a moral to our story.
What's that? The Peabody and Sherman or something? We're doing a Rocky and Bullwinkle special where we wrap it up with a moral. What's the moral of today's episode? It's all bullshit and it's bad for you. Yeah. Come to Radical MMA.
No, the moral of the story is martial arts instructors should not lie to sell products that are do not come meet people where they are.
Yeah. If there's a merch stand in the lobby of the dojo you go to, turn around and walk out.
That's not necessarily true.
No, well, that's what I stand by. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And then next week we have a guest next week, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Really. And then after that we have week as well. We have some really great guests coming up.
Lineup is killing it. Stay tuned. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Martial_Culture and on Instagram at MartialCultureCast. Please leave a review on iTunes and we'll see you next time on the Martial Culture Podcast.